For those of you who may not know, my name is Bob Bennett. I live behind the orange curtain in Costa Mesa, California. And thank you very much. And I'm very happy to be with you today. This is my first time being at a CMS conference. And as I said to the Songwriters Boot Camp yesterday, in the small amount of time that I have with you, I hope to be an encouragement, to cheer you on in whatever form your work is taking, whether it's within the orbit of the church or not, or both. And I want to be a one-man cheering squad because I'm not going to last forever. I want to help and mentor anybody that I can, to have an enthusiasm for music, to have an enthusiasm for doing it well. And so I'm just very, very happy to be with you. Now, because I didn't know we were going to have a big room, didn't know we'd have perhaps projector capability, all that. So what I did is I printed out 20 sets of lyrics of songs that we may or may not get to depending on what you want to do. My vision for this little session is subject to change as of right now. My hope was to talk to you a little bit about my extreme bias in the direction of songs that tell a story. That's what singer-songwriters, generally speaking, will do. And that's the kind of guy I am. But I think that even if you choose to write songs that function in a congregational or a group setting, that you can bring some of the insights and some of the great things about good stories into your songwriting and into your presentation. And I hope to make a modest case for that to be of use to you and to be of value to you. So part of it was I was going to gas on about that just long enough to state the case. And then I'm one of those guys who thinks that we need to get out of the theory part and just get into the actual listening part. So I brought some great songs that I like for one reason or to another. And so my thought was to play a few of those songs, almost like a listener appreciation kind of thing. Now, I realize that's not a Bob-centric activity, but I did choose the songs. I do have a couple things to say about them, and let's face it, you can go check out my music. You know, you can get on Spotify or go listen to samples on iTunes, and you'll hear it. And I heard Jimmy Webb say one time that when you like a songwriter or an artist, don't just listen to them, but listen to who they listen to. And so I read magazine interviews with songwriters voraciously to find out what their musical DNA is so that I can go and check out what they do and find out what made them great. I was probably 12 years ago, when I was 45 years old, I finally said, oh, you know, I think I ought to check out Gershwin and Porter and Mercer and Ellington and all these guys who make all that music that my parents liked that I never really listened to too much. And I found out that in the pantheon of the popular song form, these guys are the undisputed Zen masters of songwriting. They're great. But unless you hear a guy like me say, go listen to them, and you actually go do it, it's like I'm a painter, but I have no idea who Rembrandt is. And so, part of my goal is to turn you on to some people that will. Now, I have to hasten to say one very important thing. In any kind of a context where we got church people gathered together, my liberty may not be your liberty, okay? So I listen pretty broadly. I'm pretty firm in who I am as a Christian, so I don't have to Christianize my life. I am a Christian, I'm a man of the gospel, but I don't have to check the belief system of a song that I'm listening to or only watch Christian TV or, there was a time when that was the case. I felt like that was the need. But now I sort of feel like I may be judicious enough to tell what's helpful and what isn't. I have my secret goofy things that I like. It's very easy for me to get in touch with my inner 13-year-old and watch an episode of South Park or something, so it's, I'm not perfect in this realm, but on to the idea that back in the day when I started, and you always, for you people that are under 30, you're always in trouble when a guy says, back in the old days. It's like, oh, Lord, here it comes. But let me say that you could throw a rock and hit a guy like me. You could, or a gal, and there were some great ones. Karen Lafferty, a hero of faith and music, and my pal. So there was lots of men and women, but they were writing story songs. This is what's happening to me. This is how I got saved. This is what my faith looks like. This is no longer the coin of the realm in and around church. And yes, there's a part of me that feels threatened by that because this is my gig. It's like, hey, this is what I know how to do. It's like sometimes I feel like I have a warehouse full of hula hoops and the kids just aren't playing with those toys anymore. But I think there's something to be said for telling stories. My first and most plain as the nose on my face reason for that is look at the method that Jesus used to teach and to communicate. He got behind the scenes with the disciples and he unpacked the meaning. But in the main, when he got up, unless he was trying to make a point or turn a few tables over, when he was trying to make a point, he told a story. Ladies and gentlemen, explain to me how it is that in the 21st century church that storytelling is missing in action in the Church of Jesus Christ. How can the preferred method for what he did and demonstrated be gone? How did that happen? I think part of it happened, and I don't want to be that you kids get off my lawn kind of guy. I worry about that a lot. I really am a cranky guy. But I think the good news is also the bad news. Once worship music became popular, once it became a genre, once we started throwing money at it, once we started having worship stars, then that's the good news and the bad news. Everything fans out, it becomes a global thing, millions of people are singing these great songs, and it works out just fine. But because we have such a equals B mentality about how we use art in church, it has to function so that when we take the nose count at the end of the altar call, everything is fine. Because we have a tendency to look at these artistic expressions as just a means to an end, well, now the coin of the realm is to project the lyrics up on the screen and sing the songs and before the sermon and at the end and at the offering, and that's that. Now, I'm not suggesting that just because something is good, it belongs in church. I love caramel corn, and we don't pass out caramel corn, hot caramel corn in church, even though it's a very righteous thing. We just don't do it. It's not part of the worship experience. So I understand that we can't accomplish everything in the hour or hour and a half that we meet together. But, and back in the day, we had concerts where a guy like me would get up and play for an hour and a half, and I'd tell stories and I'd sing songs, and people seemed reasonably happy. And now, if I'm going to play for an hour and a half somewhere, you know where I'm at? I'm in a private home. You may not be aware of the fact that in the folk music genre, and it's getting more popular even in and around church circles, people are doing a lot of house concerts. Already you're gathering together in houses for Bible studies, for prayer meetings. So what happens is you get 25, 30 people together in a house. You make sure we got good snacks, because snacks are important. And then you get into a room with no PA, and a person pulls out the guitar, and you have a concert. I love doing this. It's the coolest thing in the world to be in close with 30 people and play for an hour and a half and drink coffee and eat cheesecake and talk about music and talk about whatever is on our minds. It's the best. So back in, as I said the other morning in my keynote address, when I was a young man, I wanted to be famous. When I got saved, I wanted to be famous for Jesus. Took me a while to get over that stuff. Now, I'm a happy man. The most important people in front of me at any given moment are whatever people are in front of me. I can't worry about who didn't show up. I can't worry if half of them are down the street seeing another artist or not, whatever. I can't worry about the records I'm not selling. I can't worry about the things I can't do. I'm worried about what's in front of me. I'm worried about what I know how to do. I didn't get in this so that I could get out of it. I didn't get in it to sell a bunch of records, make a bunch of money, retire to a farm in Tennessee. On the other hand, I want to try to change and grow as best I can. I'm a do-it-yourself guy now. All the things that I used to blame a record company for, I get to blame myself for. It's a much shorter line of communication. It's really worked out great. And so instead of working for a kid named Skippy and saying, would you like fries with that, I get to play music, still, in my old age. It's the job I always wanted to do. This is the thing I always wanted to do, and I get a chance to do it. It's glorious. You know, well, let me say, I believe that we are always hungry for stories, no matter what church you go to. If you're in high liturgy, if you're swinging from the chandeliers, if you're Presbyterian with patches on the elbows, if you're postmodern, I'm just a little too hip for the room, you know, whatever the case may be, everybody likes stories. Our culture is a story-consuming culture. And to me, if we're not telling our stories in church, people are still hungry. They're going to go where good stories are being told. And of course, it's taken me a while to get over my Christian, not Christian. I mean, sometimes that's necessary, a necessary distinction to make, sometimes. But sometimes it's utterly unhelpful. And so I go out and look for good stories. If you're old enough to remember or have seen the movie Chariots of Fire, the reason that Chariots of Fire was a perfect Christian movie is it wasn't made by a bunch of Christians who had an agenda. It was made by a group of artists who wanted to tell a story. So the spiritual aspect of it, the religious aspect of it, the nose was not like 9 feet long on the face of that story. The nose was in its proper portion. And because they didn't overstate their case, because they told a story, people drew their own conclusions. My big thing about songwriting is we underwrite in terms of structure and rhyme scheme and making a song as tight as we can make it, and we sometimes overwrite in terms of reaching over and cutting up the food on the plate next to us or chewing somebody else's food for them. Songs need, if you're going to write songs, you need to write songs where people can find room for themselves in them. The listeners are the final arbiter of what you're doing and how you're doing it. I don't write scripture, so that means people are free to ignore or not like what I do, and they do it in droves. It's okay. But I don't walk around saying, if someone doesn't buy my record, they're not listening to the Spirit of God. But you know what? All of us have had that sinking feeling, talking to a person or listening to a guy, that may well be the platform they're operating on, that they've just decided that they're God's gift to this moment, and if people are not paying attention or lauding them or getting it, then they're just not listening to the Spirit of God. If I'm going to feel that way, I try to keep it in private where it belongs. I try to tamp it down and yell at it and make it go away as best I can. Because But the luxury of being able to listen to a song and find your place in it and connect your own dots, I think that's the best thing that happens in a song. So, you know, as I put in the synopsis to this seminar, which I wrote, I tried to write it in the third person, but let's face it, I wrote it. It used to be that we would look and I don't, when I sit down to play, I don't say, well, I can play better than this guy, or what about this guy? I listen to the greats and I say, I may not ever be able to be as great as them, but I want to be the greatest version of myself that I can be. I want to do the best work that I can do. So I listen to the Jackson Browne records, to the I'm 70 years old, but I'm still Paul Simon records. I listen to those records and I go, oh, yes. They are really mentors to me, because I want to do this until I can't do it anymore. They'll have to pry the guitar out of my fingers and say, there, Mr. Bennett. I want to do this. I love this job. But, so I want to say, if you are here this afternoon and you work in a church in a worship context, or that's your desire to do that, I would never dissuade you for a moment. I'm not trying to get you to leave McDonald's and go to work for Burger King. But I'm saying, go ahead and moonlight. There's nothing wrong with both and. There's nothing wrong with writing songs that are there to give language to the Church of Jesus and to lead people in worship as best you can by example. And also write songs about your own narrative. Write songs about your own observations. Write stories. It's okay. I think it's necessary. And then whenever you pick up an instrument or go to a place, or if you're, whether you're maybe you're a short story writer, well then go ahead and write the article for the Christian magazine and write the short story that doesn't have Jesus' name anywhere in it. I say go ahead. But all of this is a matter of your own decision and your own faith. I listen very broadly to music. Architects don't learn what they learn by studying church building alone. They look at lots of buildings, they go inside lots of buildings, they have an eye for it. Songwriters, if you're only learning from songwriters who are in the household of faith, I would simply suggest that if you have the release of the Spirit of God in your life and you have the maturity and you make the decision, you listen as broadly as you possibly can, as best you can. Nobody taught me how to write songs. Eventually I learned some things about rhymes and inner rhymes and prosody and this and all the things. I came late to all of that. I was mentored, camped out next to a turntable listening to records. Those were the people who taught me what a joy it is to be a songwriter. And so I want to encourage you. I'm not going to last forever, and I'm not the flavor of the month anymore. And so I would love to see a generation of young songwriters say, I will tell stories. I will serve listeners by being honest with them. I will not airbrush the life of faith that I lead. I'll tell the whole story. It's a lot like being a reporter. I'm not going to, yes, I manage the news because if I own the newspaper, I get to decide what goes on page 1 or page 2 or what doesn't get printed. But generally speaking, the ideal is if you're a reporter, you report the news. You don't manage it, you just tell it. And I think that's what songwriters need to do. Now, it may be difficult for you to find a place to do this stuff, but do house concerts. Do it for people that you know. Go to coffee shops where the coffee is really good and the pay is really lousy, and open up your guitar case and start singing. I just would love to see this happen. Now, we have a couple different ways we can go here. I'd like to play you a few songs, if we can, that I value, that I think are great examples of storytelling, and the vast majority of them are not from people who I don't think they're believers. And I do that only because, part of it is I do it because the songs demand a hearing. But part of it is because if you're tempted to say, if it doesn't have Jesus in it or it's not driven by the Spirit, it can't be valuable, I just want to push against that a little bit. I think that creativity and art and storytelling, it's like the rain falling on the just and the unjust. The gifts are simply given. And whether a person hates God, knows nothing about God, they are still drawing and imitating the creativity of God himself. It's in our flesh and blood. It's in our desire as human beings to create. And so I am not going to take a song by Leonard Cohen and ask if he's Christian enough for me to like this song. I'm just going to listen to the song and thank God for how gifted he is and how much he helps me think about things and feel things that I don't know very well. And so, I'm going to go ahead. Now, what I did, if I only printed out like 20 of these, which means I got like one for every row. But hopefully I've picked songs that that can be, it's funny. Even sometimes when I go to play concerts, I'm asked if I would submit my lyrics so they can project them up on the screen. And I said, I don't roll that way. I don't sing congregational songs, but if I can't sing a song and engage somebody enough in the listening for them to hear what's going on, I'm not doing my job right. I'm a firm believer that songs they don't need introductions necessarily. They don't need you to read the lyrics. Now, for this point, I'm giving you lyrics, so I hope that you'll be able to hear a little bit of what's going on in the songs for sort of assessment purposes. But even if you don't have a lyric sheet in front of you, I hope you'll hear a couple things that spark your interest. So the first song we're going to hear is by a duo called The Story. Jonathan Brooke is a wonderful, creative, really quirky, sometimes a little too dark in my estimation, but that's okay. I love her. And she writes great songs. This is on an album. This is the title song of an album called The Angel in the House. And after we listen to it, I'll tell you what I like about it, and then we'll see what happens next. Also hope to leave some time for some Q&A if that would be desirable as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay, Angel in the House.
My mother moved the furniture when she no longer moved them in. We thought nothing of it at the time. She painted walls, painted smiles, checked herself in the mirror one more time, then yoked her heart to a whim. The history of desire is such that just one word, just one touch could send it reeling. She passed go again and again, never collected her 200, or landed on the purple with the Jones. She wanted to be a different person. She sat down finally, and he walked away. He walked away. She listened to the angel. She said to flatter. She said to coo. She said it won't matter. I thought I was by myself, but I cannot kill the angel in the house. Even in my wildest heart, I cannot kill the angel in the house. The angel in the house. The angel in the house. Hang on to the pieces of the game, but don't tuck back, don't sneak around. Movable objects, where were we? Don't let anything happen. But back to the wheel, back to fire, onto the high one. She listened to the angel. She said to flatter. She said to coo. She said it won't matter. I thought I was by myself, but I cannot kill the angel in the house. Even in my wildest heart, I cannot kill the angel in the house. 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 The angel in the house.
I can't hardly listen to this without tearing up. The reason this song is important to me now, it's interesting. I did not know the backstory of this song for years and years and years and years and years. And it still moved me because I interpreted the angel in the house as being the legacy of her mother, which is what she's singing about. I thought I was by myself, but I cannot kill the angel in the house. She moved, when my mother moved the furniture, when she no longer moved the man, we thought nothing of it at the time. She painted walls, painted smiles, checked herself in the mirror one more time, and yoked her heart to a whim. This is so great. This is so good. And I would expect that I, as a non-woman, I'm getting killed by this song. I would imagine if you've got a mom, you may be able to relate to this pretty well. Now, Wikipedia refers to the story as a feminist group. Nonsense. They're just wonderfully human and great. And this song. Now, as it turns out, The Angel of the House is, according to my notes, a famous poem that was written by Coventry Patmore, and it was a Victorian poem that was the idealized woman, the woman who was submissive and took care of the children and stayed at home and did all these wonderful things. And it was an insanely popular poem when it was first published in 1854. But then later on, Virginia Woolf made fun of the thing. She was like, oh, I can't believe this. And eventually she said, this woman bored me and bothered me and wasted my time and so tormented me that at last I killed her, the angel in the house. So, Jonathan Brooke, being a reader of this and knowing this, wrote, I cannot kill the angel in the house. But the song functions completely apart from that. You do not have to know that backdrop to get it. I just loved it because the song, even if the song is not your story, can you sense that it's truthful? Yeah. Can you sense that something's going on here? I hope so. Let's move on. The next song is, let's see. Oh, I don't want to skip Jimmy Webb, but I'll tell you what. We'll play a little bit of this song. I may pull it down in the middle because I want to make sure we have time. Jimmy Webb, come on. He's probably the last link to the great songwriters of Tin Pan Alley in the 40s and 50s, because when he was a young man and he was in his 20s and the 60s writing all these songs, he was like hanging out with the Sammy Kahns of the world and having great success. He's just a master songwriter. So Amy Grant covered this song on her best album and her least selling album, I might add, a record called Lead Me On that came out years ago. And so this is called If These Walls Could Speak.
These old walls could speak of things that they remember well, parties and people raising hell, a couple in love living week to week, rooms full of laughter. If these old walls could speak, hallowed halls, oh, if a hallowed house could talk, these would have a tale to tell. Sun going down and dinner bell, children playing at hide and seek from floor to rafter. If these all these halls could speak, they would tell you that I'm sorry for being cold and blind and weak. They would tell you that it's only that I have a little bit of a stubborn streak. Yes, I do, darling. If these walls could speak. nation. Oh, these window panes will rise. Well, I guess they would have seen it all. Each little tear and sigh and footfall, and every dream that we came to seek, all followed after. If these old walls could speak, they would tell you that I owe you more than I could ever pay. You're someone who really needs you, baby. Don't ever go away. That's what these walls would say. If they were not so meek, if these old walls could speak.
Now, I realize these are melancholy songs, so I want you to, if you need to secure your sharp objects, that's fine. But the reason I play you some of these things is sometimes we have that relentless kind of up with people thing going, and I'm not suggesting that we should always harp on the bad news or that only sad songs are real songs. I don't mean to suggest that at all. I just think these songs are particularly adept at talking about the rough and tumble of life. As a songwriter, I think that songs about doing the laundry belong on the same shelf as How Great Thou Art. Now, they're not the same in importance, they don't do the same thing, but they're all part of the fabric of life. So I don't make distinctions about this. I mean, I might not play the laundry song at offertory, but I might at the coffee house. So, you know, there you go. Okay, the next song is by one of my favorite writers. He is what I call a fifth column artist. He does not play Christian music. He plays in churches occasionally, but does not identify himself as a Christian musician, not because he isn't a Christian or a musician. But he plays out in the larger world, in coffee houses and colleges and clubs and places like that. He's one of the finest songwriters. I'm telling you, if we were to crudely look at the church as kind of our team, this is one of the heavy hitters of our team. He's really good. And this was a song that came out on a record in the early 90s called Chase the Buffalo. This is a fellow named Pierce Pettis. You should hunt him up, listen to his songs. You'll thank me later. This is called Lions of the Colosseum.
Upon this rock let us build our church, said the lions of the Colosseum. And as the Christians wander in, we can lock the doors and lead them. Drink the blood of the saints, roll the poor for pocket change. Then on our knees we will give thanks, said the lions of the Colosseum. I saw Dorothy Day on the barricades. She was hanging with Comrade Jesus. The lions did not see a thing. They were rendering unto Caesar. Roman soldiers did their best to silence those who would protest. They had a warrant out for Dorothy's arrest from the lions of the Colosseum. Chains of ancient history, churches and museum. Cobwebs hang like rosaries inside a mausoleum, whose surfaces are clean and white, while inside rotting corpses lie. So they like to keep the lid on tight, those lions of the Colosseum. Hey! Let us build a tower to the sky, let it reach to heaven. We shall be as gods, we shall not die, and our reign shall be forever. So the lions built from age to age till they made a babel of the faith, and tore the body in 1,000 different ways, like in the Colosseum. Oh, satellite TV, every day you see him, flying from the lap of luxury. It's the lions of the Colosseum, with politicians, millionaires. You won't see Mother Teresa there, just the holy rollers with the manes of hair, lions of the Colosseum. There's rebel graffiti on the walls inside the Colosseum. Down below in the catacombs, the defiant ones are meeting. Fighting in the underground, blood brothers pass the cup around, and they pay no heed to the roaring sound of the lions of the Colosseum. Don't you pay no heed to the roaring sound of the lions of the Colosseum.
Oh, mommy, come on. But there's rebel graffiti on the walls inside the Colosseum. Down below in the catacombs, the defiant ones are meeting. Hiding in the underground, blood brothers pass the cup around, and they pay no heed to the roaring sound of the lions of the Colosseum. Don't you pay any heed to the roaring sound of the lions in the Colosseum. Folks, this is good. This is good writing. And this is writing that you're not hearing inside our pointy buildings with the fabulous potlucks. Missing in action. It's not right. Just not right. Next song. And then I'll play a couple more here, and then we'll... Actually, I think... Let me see. Do I want to... Okay, I won't skip this one. I won't skip... I know you... I know. All right. This song is written by... Remember the guy who wrote Walking in Memphis, Mark Cohn? He's so good, and the good news is the bad news for him. He wrote like the coolest song ever. It won him a Grammy. And so a lot of people don't know everything that came after. And he is just consistently great. And this was an album, a song on his first album called Saving the Best for Last. And I just want you to just hear the story. Just hear the story that's being told and marvel in just how good it is, how real it is. This is called Saving the Best for Last.
Got into a cab in New York City. There's an Oriental man behind the wheel. Started talking about heaven like it was real, real. Say they got mansions in heaven. Yeah, the angels are building one for me right now. And I know they're saving the best for last. Look around this town and tell me that it ain't so. They're saving the best for last. But don't ask me how I know, 'cause it must be saving the best for last for me. You can go 100 miles a second, don't have to drive no lousy cab. Got everything you want and more, man, and the king picks up the tab. Walk around on streets of gold all day, and you never have to listen to what these customers say. And I know they're saving the best for last. Look around this town and tell me that it ain't so. They must be saving the best for last. Don't ask me how I know, 'cause it must be they're saving the best for last for me. Whoa, saving the best for last for me. Well, I remember when I lost in the streets of Chinatown. My mother had a vision and I was found, saving the best for last for me. Oh, oh, oh. Saving the best for last. When I finally take this journey, I'm gonna wave goodbye to her. Gonna throw this meter in the ocean and prove what I was worth. And I don't care who tries to flag me down, they're gonna have to find another ride uptown. 'Cause I know they must be saving the best for last. Man, I look around this town, so don't tell me that it ain't so. They're just saving the best for last. But don't ask me how I know, 'cause it must be saving the best for last for me. Whoa, saving the best.
What I love about this song is it's just a snapshot. It's a character piece. The lyric is totally consistent with itself. He's speaking in the voice of the guy. The guy's got a particular vision of what heaven is going to be like. It's very personal to him. When it's time for me to make this journey, I'm going to throw this meter in the ocean. He lives by the meter. He's going to throw it in the ocean, and if anybody tries to flag him, they're going to have to find another way uptown because they're saving the best for last. It's just, I don't know. I hope you emotionally connect with this. I hope you're not saying, what is he trying to get at here? If that's the case, come flag me afterwards and I'll do my best. But let's go ahead. Oh man. Okay, I'm gonna skip the Paul Simon song because I can talk about that. I wanna play two more. This is another Pierce song, but I want you to hear it because I just think it's stunning. It's called Something for the Pain, and I won't talk about it, we'll just play it and then we'll get to a comment. Something for the Pain. Thank you for, I threw you a curveball, so thank you for.
This time you say you're cured, you think, but you're not sure what of. Life is a mystery we don't have time to solve. Transcendental meditation, accidental medication. A lot of things could sure screw up your brain. Let me give you something for the pain. Well, you can go to church on Sunday, you can put on your best clothes, but God always sees you naked with all your sins exposed. Yeah, down here with the savages, in a world of freed Barabbases, where nuns carry guns to protect themselves from rape. Oh, let me give you something for the pain. I can't make the bad stuff go away, but I can offer shelter from the rain. Whoa, and the wind that blows the candles out, well, it also fans the flame. Let me give you something for the pain. And absence makes the heart grow fonder until the heart explodes. And out beyond the wild blue yonder, space is dark and cold. Yeah, the distance is an aphrodisiac, that keeps the sailors coming back to siren lovers calling them by name, saying, let me give you something for the pain. Whoa. You can't make the bad stuff go away, but you offer shelter from the rain. Oh, and the wind that blows the candles out, well, it also fans this flame. Oh, let me give you something for the pain. Let me give you something for the pain.
Okay, here's the thing, folks. Listen to what he says. I can't make the bad stuff go away, but I can offer shelter from the rain. The wind that blows the candles out also fans the flame. Let me give you something for the pain. The next chorus, you can't make the bad stuff go away, but you offer shelter from the rain. The wind that blows the candles out, well, it also fans the flame. Let me give you something for the pain. How many songs have you heard in a church context? And I'm not trying to be hyper. I love the church. Please never misunderstand me. I'm a son of the church. I love the church. But how many songs have you heard in church that reminded you that there is someone in your life who has wounds that you can bind, for whom you can ease pain, for whom you can give a good word, for whom you can incarnate the gospel of Christ? They sleep next to you. They're across the table from you at dinner. They're your pissed off kid who won't call you because you did some crappy stuff. We talk about changing the world all the time, and we ignore the world that's 3 feet from us. And these kind of songs remind us, while we're busy talking about all the wonderful transcendent things that we should be talking about and worshiping God. And one of the things that I want to say too, and this is a big deal with me, I would like to see church become something that does not work in an overflow room. If you're not in the building with the people, if you're in another room watching a big screen TV, it's not working. That's what I want to see. Because us being together in the room, we are supposed to be doing things that we cannot do alone. We're not so supposed to be doing things that we can wire in and listen to and skip church or have a croissant and coffee in the church coffee shop and watch the feed of the sermon, and that's church that day. This is not what this is supposed to be about. And these kind of songs remind us that it is our job to incarnate our faith. It is our job by the strength and the insight of the Spirit to take the things that we believe and to play them out in our lives. This is the only way it makes any sense. And I want those songs of passion, those songs of commitment, those songs of calling us to this kind of human interaction. Sometimes, folks, the most spiritual things are going to be the most unspiritual things. Jesus has already set the template for this, of course. He says, if you feed the hungry, if you clothe the naked, if you visit those in prison, if you go to those in hospitals, if you give a cup of water to the least of these, you have done it unto me. The list is full of things that are in one direction, how we take care of one another. Think of all the things that are not on the list. The list, it's a big list of things that we are still to be about. It doesn't say if you read the Bible, if you pray for your neighbor, if you give an altar call, if you do this, if you do that. There are lots of things that we do, but the list is very succinct. When you do these things, it's as if you've done them unto me, and it's how we treat one another. And how many songs are we hearing in church that speak to how we treat one another, that speak to how we engage the larger world that we live in, that help us to as much as possible purge ourselves of the us versus them mentality that we've cultivated to keep ourselves comfortable. You're not supposed to set up the straw man of the unbeliever and then beat the crap out of him. You're supposed to deal with real flesh and blood people the way they are. And sometimes the people that are outside the church, they don't have a problem with Jesus. They just have a problem with all us goofy lunatics who have done stuff in Jesus' name to hurt them. And if we never preach the gospel to another person who's never heard it, we would have our hands full with all the people who used to be with us and aren't anymore. And so, anyway, I guess I'm on the soapbox, huh? All right. The song Something So Right, I'll briefly, this is my favorite example of why sometimes the direct way to say something in a song lyric is not the best way. Paul Simon is writing this song, and he's saying, when something goes wrong, I'm the first to admit it. I'm the first to admit it, but the last one to know. When something goes right, it's likely to lose me. It's apt to confuse me. It's such an unusual sight. I can't get used to something so right. Okay? But then he says, they got a wall in China. It's 1,000 miles long. To keep out the foreigners, they made it strong. And I got a wall around me that you can't even see. It took a little time to get next to me. Now, if you're a less mature songwriter, the line is, I'm kind of hard to get to know. But if you're Paul Simon, you wed that thought to the Great Wall of China. And every time that verse rolls by, you're shaking your head going, oh, man. And not just because it's clever, not just because it's crafty, it's all of those things. But he chooses an indirect way to say something that winds up as sharp as an arrow, being direct and understandable to all of us. And so sometimes I would say to you, when you're writing songs, go ahead and look for the options that are, in some cases, the least direct, and see if those work. Not just so you can amuse yourself, but because sometimes using these descriptors is the way to go. Okay, last song, and then we'll get to questions, and we'll have about 10 minutes of those. Mac McAnally, I think his mother was a church organist. I know he has a church background because you listen to his songwriting, and he's too inside baseball on this stuff to not have this background. And this is a song, get your hankies ready, I'm telling you right now. This is a song called Somewhere Nice Forever. It's got that synthy production, but just work right past that and listen to what he's saying.
Mama, I know you're feeling low. Let's feel low together. And doctors say it's time to go somewhere nice forever. There won't be no leukemia, they're gonna keep it out, and they'll just be redeeming love like we sang about. Mama, you never let it show. You talked about the weather, and Jesus loves me, yes I know. Somewhere nice forever. You gave us all you had to give. I could not ask for better, and told us of our chance to live somewhere nice forever. There won't be no leukemia, they're gonna keep it out, and they'll just be redeeming love like we sang about. Mama, it's hard to let you go. Promise when you get there to think about me here below. Somewhere nice forever. tells me so. Somewhere nice forever. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to Him belong. They are weak, but He is strong.
And my only question is why, oh why, oh why, are these songs not good enough and desirable enough to be played in the household of faith? Why? Why are we not writing them? Why are you not singing them? Why are the clergy and the pastors attracted to these messages? And as I said in my keynote yesterday, Michael Card is don't talk to him very often, but he's got a wonderful entry in my life story. Back when my life was falling apart, my marriage was breaking up, and I couldn't even put one foot in front of the other. Michael took me on tour with him and said, come and be with us. You know, we'll get you together, you sing for an hour a day, and you can fall apart the other 23 out with us on the road. And so I'll always be grateful for that grace to me. But he had a mentor named Dr. William Lane, and Dr. Lane said to him, and Mike has it painted on the side of his studio wall, let the excellence of your work be your protest. I would tell you that if you agree with these things that I'm saying, I don't want to be happy because I'm somehow right and everybody else is wrong. But if you feel the same way that I do about this, then let the excellence of your work be your protest. Write the songs that cannot be stopped. Write the songs that cannot help but be listened to. Go to the places where you can sing them. Find the people who want to listen to them, and let's do the job. So I've got just a few minutes before we have to go, and so now we're going to hit the big clutch pedal into questions. And yes, right back there. Oh, and I'm going to repeat the question. So, yes. Uh-huh.
Like, as you say, they don't feed you the mind. It makes you think. Do you suppose there's something about the church experience where we're not comfortable with ambiguity?
Well, okay, her question is these songs are kind of ambiguous in terms of a Christian context, and therefore is that the uncomfortableness with the church? Yes, we like to have everything spelled out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in sequence. But the other thing is this, and I would never in a million years want to embarrass you by making the point that I'm about to make, but you brought up the question in such a way that is very important and I think bears talking about. What is ambiguity? My sense is that when you listen to these songs, you're not ambiguous about them. You know who you are, you know how to listen to them, you know whether they talk to you or not. Unless we're simply counting, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but unless we're simply trying to do the math of do they mention the gospel enough, or do they do this, or do they accomplish this, if we approach them not with a preconceived notion of what they're supposed to accomplish, but approach them as just the stories that they are, then the listener provides the context that makes them unambiguous. The listener provides the necessary component that brings the song home to what it is. That's like when your point is well taken, because in a church context, we want the path of least resistance. And don't misunderstand me. When I've got a group of Sunday school kids in front of me at Vacation Bible School, I'm singing, "Beloved, beloved, let us love one another, love one another." I'm not singing, saving the best for last for me. Okay? But, so I wince a little bit to hear you say ambiguous, but I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the right way to ask the question. And I think artistically we're doing a little bit of a pushback if we champion this type of writing. But I think that I sympathize if you're, I'm not employed by a church, so I get to do what I want. And if they don't like me, they don't call me. And that's happening a lot more than I wish it was sometimes. But what I'm saying is I think you can take some of the skills and some of the passion and some of the narratives of these songs and write about Christian things and gospel topics with them. So I'm not suggesting that if you mention the name of Jesus that you've somehow committed some sort of deep artistic betrayal and you're just not hip enough for the room. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm just saying that I think listening to songs that are good stories help us out as humans, and if we're better humans, I think we'll be better Christians. I think the Holy Spirit does this incredible work in us when we can't help but be built up by things that are good and feel an avoidance, if on our best behavior, feel an avoidance to things that are not that good. Some of this is very subjective. This stuff rings my bell. I can listen to these things all day long because I love the stories. I love these characters. I love the fact Randy Newman is the absolute king of writing characters in his songs that are just as unsavory as they need to be accurate. He does not airbrush stuff out. And so, anyway, so I hope that addresses your question in part without feeling like I'm embarrassing or I don't mean to be that. Yes?
I know one artist, okay, this is in the gospel genre, Kirk Franklin.
Uh-huh.
He writes from his experience, and his songs have been classified as hard. They talk about hard life and how we try to hide behind religion, not really understanding what we believe. Would that be along the same? He does have truth, biblical truth, like in his chorus or something.
Yes, she's bringing up Kirk Franklin as an example of a person who doesn't just sort of do the Pollyanna kind of thing, but writes about a hard life and hard experience within the context of being a Christian and all that. So yeah, that would be a great example. And within that tradition, that musical tradition, I think there's a lot more room for that kind of honesty. It's built into people's acceptance of what they will hear and what they will tolerate to talk about this thing. So I think that when you're talking about that gospel music, that is much more well situated as a genre to tell the truth and to tell it more broadly than perhaps the contemporary Christian music guys do. But again, now I may be just an expert on yesterday's newspaper. There may be guys out there doing work that I don't get, but I'm not, and that may be so. And you can educate me. You can email me and tell me, Bob, here's who you need to be listening to, guys who are thinking along this line, and then I'll be much less obstinate about my thought that it's missing. Yes?
Just going along and taking that line of thinking about ambiguity. John Foreman's song, like 24 from Switchfoot, where he does a great way of mixing in this imagery, but doesn't ever, most of the time, bring up God or Jesus or anything. But he talks about mortality, about his son's scars and things like that. What do you think about that kind of an approach?
Okay, he's asking about a kind of approach that John Foreman uses where he's characterizing it as being there's lots of questions and lots of images and lots of things being done, but perhaps not a lot of specific religious language or biblical terminology or that sort of thing. I hate to be evasive about this, but it's like Mexican food. If it's done well, it's great, and if it's done poorly, it's not great. If you're skillful at doing these things, I actually had a radio station one time. I have a song called Hand of Kindness. And a radio station would not play the song because I did not mention the name of Jesus in the song, and therefore they were concerned that someone would hear my song Hand of Kindness and not know whose hand I was talking about. This is not good news for those of us who want to try to be creative. Yes?
Well, I was just going to ask you about how you feel about the new genre or newer genre that is prophetic worship where they're telling the prophetic, you know, the ones like Misty Edwards and you know, they are telling a story about prophecy and words, and then the minstrel kind of worship that's coming in. There's a lot of minstrel and prophetic worship that's out there, and they tell a good story. And I think I don't think it's really been talked about very much. And I just wondered how you felt about it.
She's asking about the prophetic worship that is coming into play, and also minstrel type worship.
Yeah,
And so here's where I have to just, it would be ridiculous for me to try to be honest with you and then lie to you now. I don't know this stuff. I haven't heard of this stuff. I have to be honest, I've kind of checked out of a lot of this stuff because I didn't want to have my heart broken over all this stuff that I didn't know how to relate to, so I kind of did the cowardly thing and checked out of some of this stuff. And probably I need to check back in and make sure that I'm not setting up my own straw man and knocking him down, which I could be guilty of doing. So, yes?
Is there some good resources as far as imagery and things like that? When I used to live in Missouri, it seemed like everybody had these colorful little phrases like, oh, that's a great way to say that. But, you know, living in Nebraska, nobody talks like that. It's pretty cool.
Well, you're talking about inspiration for imagery? Well, I think the best thing to do, I think the best songwriter is a voracious consumer of other people's work, whether it's movies, whether it's good television, whether it's books, whether it's the lost art of conversation with one another with all devices on silence. You know, I think all of these things will contribute to that. I gravitate toward that sort of thing, and I can give you a list of writers that I admire who do that, but I think the more you, I have this. This is a horrible way to describe it, especially given the fact that I eat recreationally and I'm a huge guy, but I view my work as being kind of an anorexic waiter. I'm in the delivery business, and I love the kitchen, and I know the menu, and I want to serve my table, but I can't keep my own food down. So I'm looking for other people. I'm listening to Pierce. I'm listening to Mac. I'm listening to Billy Batstone's worship songs. That guy's a genius. He should have been in here doing a songwriting class with 400 people in here, because he's just the best at this stuff. But I rely on other people to feed me and show me and to help me get along, so that when I sit down to do my own stuff, I've got something to run on. I hope that maybe not, it's kind of a non-answer, but I just think be as voracious and as you can, as your faith and your temperament will allow you to be. Yes?
What if you are writing songs now that, what's the next step for you? Like, if you have 50 songs written and you think you have 10 great songs, and you've shared them with 20 people, and they think they're great too, where do you go? Where do you do that?
This is the toughest question that there is. She's asking, if you're a songwriter, you've got a body of 50 songs, you think 10 of them are much better than the other 40, what do you do next? You've had some feedback, local feedback from people who know you, may know you and love you, or smaller situations where you're due. So how do you take it to the next level? That's the hardest question that there is. I have an answer that you're not going to like much. And that is that I believe that artistic work that is supposed to be consumed on a mass level is almost like a seepage that can't be stopped. I believe that you can apply certain efforts to get yourself distinguished and known, and there are certain things you can do. We're involved in a business of self-promotion under a dynamic of don't sit in the seat of honor, sit in the seat of humility, and then let the host usher you forward. So we have a little bit of push and pull going on in this thing that we're trying to do together, because we do something that demands attention, but we're also supposed to have some measure of humility about what we do and be clear-eyed about who we are the other 23 hours of the day when we're not on stage. You know, I I think the best thing to do is to keep your eyes on the local and start to do that. I know that that's tough because we talked about this. I forget if we talked about it in a session or if I heard it at a session or at a table conversation. But the American Idol thing of we're going to make you a star, you're going to sing a bunch of great songs, we're going to make you a star, has done a great disservice to the way that we view this. You be faithful and local in the things that you know how to do. And I believe if you do that, there will begin a sort of upward seepage, which I know is a horrible way to say it. A songwriter, to come up with a phrase like that is really, I need to be slapped around. But there's going to be something that's kind of unstoppable about what you're doing that will begin to kind of take it to the next level. Now, admittedly, there's so many people trying to do this. There's so much noise. It's hard to make your artistic voice heard in the fray. It's very, very hard. But I think if you write songs and you have 10 of them that you think are really good, do you play and sing them yourself? You do. Okay, so you're not just a writer, but then your job is to just get out in as many situations as you can and play and play and play and play. Because even though it's going to be fun to get them placed on records, even though it's going to be great to go play for a couple thousand people at a time, adopt the house concert mentality. Whoever you're in front of, no matter what the situation is, that's your gig. Those are the people that you're there to sing for. And I have to tell you, those 10 songs played for whoever you're in front of, that's the most important artistic universe you can deal with at that moment. That's not the gig that you do on the way to somewhere else. That is the gig. And so I would encourage you to always be in the present moment of whatever you can do. Of course, we're looking with an eye toward growing and getting a lot more listeners if we can. But it's a very difficult question. Honestly, folks, if I were better at this, I'd be playing on the main stage tonight. I'd be selling thousands of records. I'd be Bob W. Bennett. No. Not going to happen. That's not who I am. If I knew how to do this really at the level that everybody wants to do it on, I'd be doing it. I don't. I don't know how to do it. So I'm a workman. I'm a grunt labor musician, and just as happy as I can be. Yes.
About the mechanics of bringing storytelling to the church. I was just thinking about this as we went through the lyrics. They work well because they speak personally to people. If I were to lead these songs, I would be bawling all the time. So how do you get to the point where you're not bawling every time you do it in a worship setting, and then on the other hand, if you're not bawling all the time and really...
No, you know what? Actually, there's a real kind of little mystical thing that happens when these songs are sung. You can actually cultivate enough distance from the song that you're singing. Your job is to sing the song. And if other people fall apart, that's fine. You have to schedule your falling apart for the times that you're not on stage, if at all possible. But it's kind of a discipline. I have a song called Man of the Tombs. It's about the Gadarene demoniac. It's a very important song to me. If I start to think too much about it in the wrong way, I'm going to be toast about verse 3. And I'm going to be a little verklempt. I'm not going to be able to finish. So I deliberately try to get in song delivery mode. Not that I don't mean it, but I try to discipline myself to just deliver the song. My service is to sing the song. There's only one thing that I know how to do, and that's to sing Bob Bennett songs. And so I try to concentrate on that task. So you'll find if you try hard that you'll be able to kind of compartmentalize the emotion a little bit so you can get through the job. And in worship, I think it's okay to bust out in tears. You're fine. You've got other people to support you, and I would say let her rip. But in a sort of a singer-songwriter storyteller situation, the best stories are going to be told when you can actually complete them. Okay. All right. We're out of time, I think. I'm gonna say thank you very much. And if you want to come see us, Billy and Alex and I will be at the cafe tonight at 10 o'clock talking about how good it was in the old days and singing the old songs and all that. And if you can come be with us, we'd love to have you. And I'll stick around for personal questions as well. Thank you.